The voice of sharing, Durian ASEAN.
ASEAN Breakfast Call. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hello and welcome to Durian ASEAN. This is Gowri.
Good morning, this is Grace.
And of course, this is DurianASEAN.com, the voice of discovery and sharing. You're
That's
coughing,
correct.
Grace.
I always been coughing, but I don't care because today is Friday.
Yes, it is Friday. It's the best day of the week, and we
Yes.
have so many exciting things in store for our listeners today. And of course, starting with our news commentary for this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And before we go to the news commentary, how has your week been in a
My
nutshell?
week has been really crazily busy, packed, super duper.
Typical Grace, I would say.
Yeah, and even yesterday I came back and I totally KO'd, and then I got up a bit late. I'm still blurred, but I try my best to deliver the news and I will comment on that with my best. Well, but then time really flies, Gowri.
Yes, it does.
It's just like, whoo, and it's Friday already, and
And
I'm like,
also, it's already the first week of December. Can you believe that?
Exactly.
We only have like 3 weeks left.
so how about you, Gowri?
Mine has been a very sickly week, if you guys remember. Monday, I was not feeling too well. Tuesday, it got really worse. So Wednesday, I had an MC. Thursday, I was recovering. And today, I'm back in action. So it was like a whole
I got your
process.
sickness from you then.
Well, I wasn't coughing, so I don't know where you got that from. And it seems another thing that has also improved, besides me, is Malaysia in terms of the Corruption Perception Index. And we scored 50 over 100 points. So that's like a 50-50 thing.
Well, a 50-50 thing, but I can also say that Malaysia has improved a little bit compared to the previous years. Yeah, but then it's better than nothing, you know. It's the corruption rate has improved a little bit higher.
And it seems that, I'm sorry, we actually scored 50 points in 2013. So that was last year. This year we actually scored 52 points.
So like I said, it's a little bit higher.
That's what we were talking about
Yeah.
earlier. We scored a little bit better than we did last year. Of course, it's only 2 points, but it's still, I would say, a very positive step, because when it comes to corruption, we always tend to have a bad reputation, especially when it comes to people in our own country, the way they perceive the leaders. It can be anyone, doesn't have to be from the government or opposition. Anyone at all can get involved in this corruption scandal. And when it comes to money is a dangerous thing that can change people. And for us to climb up, although it's just a very, very little amount, is actually quite a positive move or
Exactly.
positive light for
Yeah.
Malaysians.
Just to clarify, the score 0 will be very, very corrupted country, and the score of 100 will be very, very clean country. So Malaysia scored 52, so it's closer to very clean country.
So let's aim for like 54 next year.
Definitely.
And we'll make our way
Like two
higher
points higher
every
each
year.
year. Yeah, okay.
And another shocking news is, of course, Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, which I can't call him Datuk Seri anymore because he has been stripped of the title by the Selangor Palace. It was the decision of the Seri Sultan Salahuddin Abdul Aziz Shah. And this Palace decision to revoke the title was actually effective the 3rd of November, but it was just confirmed now. And he said that I will continue to discharge my duties in upholding the federal constitution, constitutional monarchy, and continue serving as an Selangor economic advisor, he said.
And then also, they decided to revoke Anwar's Datuk Seri title because the latter had repeatedly questioned the integrity of the monarchy in dealing with the recent Menteri Besar crisis.
But
So we don't call him anymore with the title. We just call him.
we'll have to just call him with his
I
name.
am Anwar.
But if you look at a lot of countries, right, they're usually not particular about the titles at all. Most
But then
countries.
it's different here in Malaysia.
It's different here.
The titles are very significant.
It's
yeah.
very significant, and people pay a ton of money sometimes to get the title from the sultan of the state.
Yep.
But if you really think about it, you don't really need a title to be in a certain position to be able to carry out your duties. The title is just something that is it's complimentary. It's like a bonus that comes with what you're doing. It doesn't really define who you are. Like if we talk about anyone at all, like Boris Johnson, who is Arlene's biggest idol right now, or if we talk about Barack
He doesn't
Obama,
have a title. He just
yeah,
the Boris Johnson,
or
the
it's
mayor of
Barack
London.
Obama, or it's Kim Jong Un, or whoever it is, they don't have a title, and they are still leaders of the country. People still respect them, and they can still carry out their job. It doesn't stand in the way, but for some reason, it doesn't quite work that way in Malaysia. When in order to perform, they kind of need the YB or
title.
Tan Sri there in
Yep.
front of the names.
Well, at the same time, the Sultan also rebuked Anwar for questioning matters pertaining to Islam and also said that the opposition leader was no longer fit to hold such an award. But however, on the other side, Anwar, who received the award when he was a finance minister, he also said that
He actually he doesn't care too much for the title either,
Yep.
and he probably was, of course, during the last elections, everyone was saying that he could be the next prime minister, and that was another controversial issue that was going on in the country. But I still stand by what I said earlier, that you don't really need a title as long as you do your job, and Anwar can be influential. Of course, there's always the team A and the team B. Some people like him, some people don't. Some people are really against him and his ideas for Malaysia. But there are still a lot of people who respect him for who he is, and they look up to him. So, who cares about a little Datuk Seri in front of your name? And moving on to your favorite
my
app.
favorite now.
Where we have Uber's rival.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Grab
Uber is my
Taxi
favorite taxi app
is actually
application.
picking up because they have a new investor who's investing $250 million.
Congratulations, Uber. Well, I am a heavy user, Uber user, and then in fact, just because of the facilities and then the services that they're providing, Uber is definitely on demand. No matter all those issues that the company has faced so far, they actually overcame all those crises and challenges. And then not only in Malaysia, but also in India, Japan, and Korea, they started using these applications widely.
And of course, in Malaysia, we have the ongoing battle with between Uber and My Taxi.
And Easy Taxi.
Right, Easy Taxi as well. And a lot of people said Uber should not be around because they are not under SPAD, and they should be registered. If not, they are illegal and they cannot operate, and people should resort to My Taxi. But actually, Grab Taxi is pretty much the same as My Taxi, except that they use a different branding for outside of Malaysia.
Yeah.
So that's the name that they use for other Southeast Asian countries, Grab Taxi. And it seems that they have been successful in attracting not just SoftBank, but a couple of other investors as well to
For
come in
sure.
and invest in them so they can grow in Southeast Asia.
Yep, and then the Grab Taxi or My Taxi was founded in Malaysia in a couple of years ago, 2012, and then they have 500 staff, over 500 staff, and then they in 17 cities across 6 countries in Southeast Asia, such as Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, Singapore, Vietnam, Indonesia.
And Uber is, of course, present in each of Grab Taxi's market. Wherever there's Grab Taxi, there's also Uber slowly creeping up behind, just trying to catch up or even overtake them. But however, Grab Taxi is still the leading taxi app in Southeast Asia. They claim to have 500,000 monthly active users from 2.5 million downloads. and they also have about 60,000 drivers on its network, and that 3 bookings are made every second across its platform. Because if you look at Grab Taxi, back in May alone, they already had 1.2 million downloads, and that is a lot.
That's a really, really a lot. I mean, the fact that Uber itself, it also raised the $1.2 billion earlier this year, and it's tipped to be closing in on another $1 billion round again. And then also, it has this rumor of a $40 billion valuation. And then on the other side, the Grab Taxi, it seems that it's building its own war chest, and also bringing on the formidable ally in SoftBank.
And according to Anthony Tan, who is the CEO and co-founder of SoftBank, it seems that they are not Grab Taxi is not planning to move out of the region. They are going to stay in Southeast Asia and try to be a strong regional brand, which is great because we are actually looking for more people to focus on the Southeast Asian market. And he's definitely doing the right move here. And he said they will also be hiring, and we want the right kind of people. And I'm assuming with that he will also be hiring a lot of people from Southeast Asia.
Definitely, it's a good move, Gowri, because a lot of people have been using taxi, but at the same time, the image of taxi has not been really positive so far. But with all this improvement in the taxi company, and also by seeing that there's healthy competitions among companies, it's actually a step forward to taxi users. And so that they can look into, they can take the consideration of their facilities and the services, and also at the same time, taxi drivers, their attitude towards the clients.
And that is right. There's no point even if you have 2.5 million downloads, you have active users, but if you don't have a good reputation, that always reflects badly on the company, because it's not always about how many downloads you have, how many customers you have. It's the word of mouth that goes around. Like even the newspaper has reported countless times that my taxi is not really that reliable in Malaysia, and that people are complaining that the drivers don't accept your request unless you give them a huge amount of tip. So hopefully with this new investment coming in, they will step up their game and make the necessary changes like you mentioned, so they can provide a healthy competition to Uber, as opposed to just getting Uber out of the market altogether.
Definitely, and this one is also could be considered as a startup, and definitely Southeast Asia startup scene has been heating up. And just last week, Carousel, you know what Carousel is? That is to sell the clothes on that application. It's a bit outside of the topic, but then it also raised around $6 million.
Right.
And also other applications, they have raised the millions and millions of dollars. So definitely this startup scene in around Southeast Asia is definitely increasing and improving.
And let's go to China from Southeast Asia. We're going out a little bit. It seems that China says they have 100 million outbound trips this year, and these Chinese travelers have taken 100 million outbound trips, officials said. With the vast majority visiting Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. And just under 4% of these 100 million trips counted up to the end of November, where they went to Europe, and this Chinese State Tourism Administration said on Wednesday.
And also the total number of people who travel abroad was not given, but then the figures call into doubt previous reports that about 97 million Chinese did so last year.
And apart from that, they also had visitors to South Korea, Thailand, Japan, United States, Vietnam, Singapore. And why is this important? Because it goes back to ASEAN itself, because China is, of course, a very, very huge country.
Very gigantic country.
And even if they just send 1% of their travelers to Southeast Asia, it's already a massive amount of number. And for them to actually come over to all these countries in Southeast Asia, like Vietnam, Thailand, Singapore, that of course will help us in turn to boom our tourism industry, and it seems that China is helping us out in that area.
Well, In fact, China's economy has boomed over the past decades, and all expanding the ranks of its middle class, who are well hungry for foreign travel after the country's decades of isolation in the last century. And also, EU and Asian countries have moved to ease the visa applications procedure for Chinese tourists in recent years, which is actually very good news for all these Chinese travelers and tourists.
And I'm glad you brought that up because most of the time when you look at a certain country, it's usually the people in the middle class that are doing most of the spending that because they are always trying to constantly improve their lifestyle, upgrade their skills, and they are the ones that really contribute to the economy. And also in this case, in China, it's because of the rise of the middle class that they like you mentioned, they are hungry for foreign travel. They want to go out. They want to see what else does the world has to offer besides being in China itself, and that has caused a huge amount of people to get out and travel. And most of them are, of course, coming to Asia, which is a good thing, and they're also traveling all over the world. And it seems that Chinese travelers are also the world's biggest spenders ahead of German and US tourists.
Look at how much they spent in the 2012. It was around $102 billion.
$102 billion.
Oh, with the population, yes, I am not so surprised. But then the amount of money, wow.
And apart from that, the EU and Asian countries have also moved to ease the visa application procedures for these Chinese tourists. So it's only making it easier for them. And hopefully they can travel more around Southeast Asia.
For sure.
And we can also go to China and return and help with their economy.
And furthermore, that will definitely build up the healthier relations between the government and the government from the different countries.
Especially with China because it is a superpower in this region. And but Myanmar is actually not doing too well in terms of expanding the country or in terms of economy because they are still believed to be firmly under military control.
That's not a good news, Gowri.
That is not a good news for Myanmar, of course, because the nominee to become the next commander of U.S. forces said that they are actually planning to expand their military ties with Myanmar, but that is not necessary because the time isn't right because Myanmar is still very much under military control. Of course, we have mentioned countless times that they are trying to let go of the military government. They are trying to move towards a democratic system, but that is also it's a very long and complicated process with the current government, and there's also Aung San Suu Kyi from the opposition, and there's problem with the constitutions. There's a lot going on in the country, and that will of course reflect Myanmar in a particular way in people from the outside.
Well, it was just last month that Obama visited Myanmar, and then it was also from the U.S. point of view that there has been no change to a junta era constitution. I mean, Myanmar has shifted from the direct military rule towards the more democratic system, like you mentioned, and then they have been opening more platforms for foreign direct investments to come into the country and to develop the country itself. But then after the visit, the Obama actually acknowledged that the reform have slowed down and or even moved backwards.
And that is not a positive thing. The U.S. lawmakers are also starting to get quite wary about trying to establish deeper ties because they are afraid of the prestige, or rather the reputation that Myanmar has. And of course with their army, they're still fighting ethnic insurgents and they are being accused of human rights offenses and abuses. And if you remember, we went to the National Economic Outlook Forum, and one of the speakers was saying that some countries in Southeast Asia are not doing very well, like Myanmar or Thailand, and it's always because of who is running the country. So that seems to be a very, very important thing in terms of attracting potential investors. Because even if you look at Indonesia, the moment Jokowi took over, a lot of people started, investors started showing interest. Like, okay, it's Jokowi and he's like the people's favorite, and they feel good about coming in and then pouring their money in. But when you have countries like Myanmar or Thailand, when the people themselves are still not just not happy, just trying to protest, trying to go for a reform, and and things are so complicated in the country, when their own people don't have faith in them, it's very hard to bring someone from outside to come in and to invest in that country itself.
Yep, and also in addition to that, Myanmar, we had high hopes. A lot of people had high hopes when it comes to improvement of the nation itself. But this news, it says that Myanmar is still under the military control. It's not a so positive news. However, we still need to wait patiently just to see how this nation can move forward. It was just a point of how Obama, it's just the last visit of Obama's to at Myanmar, and he pointed out about this, his opinions towards the Myanmar.
And of course, so they still have their elections going on next year, and maybe come January they will come up with some new plans, some new policies. So we'll definitely keep our ears open to wait for any updates and any positive or forward move from Myanmar. And another country that also suffered something not so good recently is Philippines, where they had a typhoon that attacked the country, and this is being reported all over the news, and we have to mention this. Of course, we feel very sorry for the Filipinos, and this typhoon is called the Typhoon Hagupit, and it has affected a lot of areas, and still very intense storm that is capable of causing major damage and loss of life. And it seems that the Philippines Weather Agency, known as PAGASA, as well as the Japanese Meteorological Agency, predicted that the storm will hit nearly due west, striking storm-weary islands of Samar and Leyte.
So here are the details of how typhoon was there in the Philippines on the Thursday afternoon.
Yeah.
And it seems that it was a pretty impactful towards to the country, and a lot of damages have been made. And then Hagupit, which is the name of this typhoon, is the fifth Category 5 storm in the Western Pacific in 2014, also which is the first time that it has happened since 1997. And the climate projection, it shows that by 2100, tropical cyclones in the many ocean basins may be more intense but less frequent.
And they've also cautioned the locals to prepare for possible landfalling storm, which will bring flooding, storm surge, high winds, and this could actually start tomorrow on Saturday as an after effect of the typhoon that happened. And they've also started issuing evacuation orders for most of the vulnerable areas. So hopefully the evacuation goes smoothly, and the people will be safe and make all the necessary preparations.
This is very important when it comes to evacuation orders and the practice the country has to have. For example, Japan, they have the regular practice of evacuating orders when it comes to earthquakes, because Japan is well known for having frequent earthquakes. So if Philippines is preparing for the typhoons, it's important to increase the awareness of this practice in the country. So it will definitely reduce the cost of that, the cost of damages.
And they said it is a challenge to find ourselves with multiple scenarios that are quite divergent. Of course, they've also been a victim of a few other natural disasters as well. And there is actually the Commissioner for Climate Change for the Philippines government, who is Yep Sano, who said, "I'm in my motherland, Philippines, and I stand with my people as we face another super typhoon." So of course, at times like this, it's very important for them to stay united. And like you said, for the evacuation and everything, I hope everything goes smoothly in the Philippines for now. So before we wrap things up for this morning, let's look at the bigger picture of ASEAN economic integration going well with U.S. programs. So Malaysia as the chair of ASEAN next year we are aiming to bring businesses and people in the region together, according to our Prime Minister Datuk Seri Najib Tun Razak. And he said that some of the priorities would include helping people appreciate the benefits of AEC, of course, engaging businesses on the changes, and also how to grab all the opportunities ahead.
Well, this is definitely, it sounds very ambitious and then it looks very positive. But then a lot of people still do believe in the execution of plans. This is just a plan, and then how ASEAN will benefit by having US, and then also the funding from the US, because the United States is spending almost $40 million or 138 million ringgit on programs under this initiative.
And the Obama administration is also planning to focus on Asia for their diplomatic, economic, security, and people-to-people cooperation, noting that nearly 6 million Americans have Southeast Asian heritage. And he said that if you take all the foreign direct investment in Southeast Asia, American companies account for the most, actually more than China, Japan, or even Korea's companies combined.
Yep. And also when it comes to business, right? It includes a lot of areas such as women's entrepreneur or youth leadership, and also just all those private business sector as well. So definitely it will include a lot of areas: economic, diplomatic, security, and then cooperation. All these areas will be covered by having US in the Southeast Asia.
And another method that is being used to foster friendship in ASEAN is actually through films. And this is surprisingly being done in Korea, where South Koreans are actually queuing up at the modern and contemporary art to catch films produced by ASEAN countries.
South Koreans are they're huge fan of films when it comes to local and international.
And they're very, very supportive as well.
Very supportive.
Whether it's film or music, whatever that is regional, they seem to be very, very supportive.
Because every year, the president of Korea, she promised the people that she will give the sort of easier term is pocket money to those people who really wants to, all low income people, that annually she will give the pocket money to them, so they will also be able to appreciate the art entertainment areas. So when it comes to film industry or music, it's highly appreciated by the people there.
And they also said that we expect more Koreans, up to 5 million, to travel to all these ASEAN countries next year. And Malaysia will also be involved in this film screening, of course. We have our movie called KL Zombie, which is a comedy flick directed by Woo Ming Lin, about an unlikely hero sacrificing his life to save Malaysians from virus turning everyone into zombies.
Well, let's hear what's the feedback from the Koreans then regarding this.
Yes, of
That's
course.
very comical.
And that's all the time that we have for this morning. Thank you so much for joining us for our news commentary.
And please remember to download TuneIn app and find us Drian ASEAN.
And like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter. We also have a YouTube channel, and we have Instagram. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram as well.
It's Instagram. So yes, that's it for our news commentary. And again, don't forget today is Friday.
And this is Gowri.
And this is Grace.